Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is another edition of Tan Talks. I'm joined by Squirrely Mat, one quarter of the Produce Stand podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to do this. And, you've been on our show. And so I'm really looking forward to this, man.
We're here to recap season 1 of Peacemaker. As a matter of fact, here's the thing. If you haven't watched the series yet,
don't listen.
Don't listen.
Yeah. We're going to go into it.
Yeah, we're getting into it. I'll tell you the truth. Yeah. The main reason why I started watching Peacemaker is because of you. I had no real inkling to watch it because I watched The Suicide Squad and I didn't hate it. But when it comes to DC and Marvel, I've always said, and a lot of people have said it, and I 100% agree. Marvel does movies great, TV shows terrible. DC does movies terrible and does TV shows great.
Yeah, total. Okay, sorry. Continue. Then I'm jumping.
So, and then of course we're in the Produce Stand DM group over there on the tweet machine, and you were like, "I never not watch the intro," and I'm like, "Intro, you say?" Yeah. All right, fine. I'll give it one try. I'm not the biggest John Cena fan.
Yeah.
But I'll give it a try. After that first intro, I was hooked.
Yeah. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. And I'm kind of with you though, Bryan. Like I've always been a Marvel fan. I agree. They do movies way better. I feel like DC's been chasing them for years. They've been trying to dish things out, and most of it just falls flat. Even back to my childhood, and I'll show you in a second. So I've always been drawn. I watched X-Men, and I had all the comics. I was drawn to Marvel. I had DC. I never connected with any of the characters, exception Batman. That said, so today I looked up. I had some a collector card sitting in a box that I hadn't opened in years. Yeah. I quickly dove into it.
Oh, Peacemaker!
I got doubles of the Peacemaker.
That is awesome.
And it made me laugh. I'm like, I didn't even know who he was when we watched the show, but it turns out I had his playing cards. I'm gonna quickly read a bit from the back here, and I want you to apply this to John Cena because it's a complete mess, but I love it anyways.
Okay.
So it says he's a Vietnam veteran, Christopher Smith, pits his hand-to-hand combat training, expert marksmanship skills, and inventive genius against those who would sacrifice the lives of the innocent. Inventive genius.
Yeah, no. No, the only inventive genius that I saw was the KKK 1000.
Oh my God, just too much to handle.
We're going to break apart this season. We're going to talk about the season, what we liked, what we didn't like. Let's talk a little bit about the characters. So you got Christopher Smith, aka Peacemaker, played by John Cena.
And when you see a John Cena, I mean, he has the challenge of going up against Dwayne Johnson from that genre. Like, he's a wrestler turned fighter turned movie star, and it doesn't sound like it works. Dwayne Johnson has obviously been phenomenal. The guy is
transcended. He's transcended.
It's amazing what and I love watching him. So when I heard John Cena, saw him, I'm like, okay, I see what he's trying to do. He's like Ishable. Let's see what happens. And it wasn't until The Suicide Squad I actually really enjoyed. And I didn't know at the time that they were already doing a spinoff of him. I said to my wife at the time, like, this guy needs his own show because his character was so just like you were drawn to him, and he was hilarious and an asshole and interesting, and you just wanted to kick him in the face and like all at once. And but there's something really oddly, I don't know. And so when I heard they're doing when I heard there was a spinoff, I'm like, absolutely.
And see, I was the exact opposite because here's my thing. I did laugh. Like The Suicide Squad is John Cena's breakout role.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and you know what? He was enjoyable. Now, granted, I was watching that movie for Idris Elba because Idris Elba's the freaking man.
Oh, man. He killed that movie, too. So good.
But John Cena and Idris Elba, they worked so well together. And now that I'm thinking back on it, it's like, yeah, he really. So when they said they were doing the spinoff, I was like, yeah, I guess, but didn't they drop a building on him? Seriously, like how is he? And then, of course, I hear you talk about the intro. So I'm like, well, you know what? I trust Matt's judgment. I'll check out an episode.
That was your first mistake, but
yeah, no. And then I was hooked. And then it's like, oh my God, John Cena can carry a series.
Yeah.
So with Chris Smith, Peacemaker, he is such an asshole, but there is something so lovable about him because he's so dumb. And as we get deeper into the series, we learn why he is the way he is. And really, he's a survivor. He's a survivor of abuse. It's almost like he took the good qualities of his abuse.
Yeah, as messed up as he is, he came out in probably the best version of himself he could have been, considering what he was dealt.
One thing that I really appreciated was how the events of the Suicide Squad stuck with Peacemaker.
Yeah.
Rick Flag calling him a joke.
Yeah.
It really affected him.
Well, they didn't take the time in Suicide Squad to really dive into his character. This show is a whole character profile, and they did a good job of diving into it. So you almost immediately hate him based on what happened in Suicide Squad, but you're curious, right? And they go off from there. And I think they set the stage and carried the tone over perfectly it's James Gunn, so he had that ability to keep it going, but they carried it over and just kicked it off like the movie was continuing on just about him. And then you also got the sort of action comedy genre. And like, I'll call it like the R-rated action comedy, which is one of my favorite genres in whole. If you can blend action with a good laugh, you got me all day. This is also DC's Deadpool, right?
Right. All right, so let's move down the list. So now you got Danielle Brooks as Leota Adebayo. Danielle Brooks, for those that don't know, Danielle Brooks played Tasty in Orange is the New Black. And Danielle Brooks just takes that talent into Peacemaker, and you want to talk about nailing it.
Yeah. So when she stepped on the screen, so I watched all of Orange is the New Black, was a big fan of that. I mean, it had highs and lows like any series, but all in, I thought it was fantastic. When I saw her, I was so happy to see her because I love the Tasty role. She has this real sort of innocence and vulnerability to her, but it's so much more. So seeing her in this, I was at first like, I love her, but surprised. I'm like, okay, how is this going to work? And she brought that same kind of personality to this show where, you didn't quite know. She kind of felt out of place, but at the same time was finding her groove. And in the end, she delivered and was such an important, crucial character in this that kept Peacemaker very leveled across the series.
Right. Nobody else could play Leota Adebayo.
No.
The fact that we get the right away shocker that's Waller's daughter.
I mean, a lot of shows, they will drag you along, not reveal too much. And this show did a lot of it where they sort of weren't revealing too much until it wasn't until about episode 4 or 5 that you really kind of knew the bigger picture what was going on. But you're right. The Amanda Waller, they gave out immediately, and they let you know that so that you could have that thinking after everything she was doing and how she was integrating, what the bigger story was there.
Right. Freddie Sroma as Vigilante. Adrian Chase was the alter ego of Simon Morrison, aka Prometheus, in the Arrowverse.
I don't know him. When he popped on the screen, I'm like, I didn't know who this guy was. I had to do a little searching, but I liked him. I thought he brought a lot. It was a very shocking character. He brought so much energy to the table. He was such a loose cannon, but a loose cannon you just couldn't look away from. You want to stand right in front of it and let it go off because you're like, this guy is just bringing it. He doesn't stop.
And you already mentioned that this series is the DC version of Deadpool.
Yeah,
he was the DC. He was like the Deadpool.
You're right. Yeah.
Of the show.
Absolutely, no fear, just throwing it out there. No, like he's a sociopath, and there's nothing else, no other way to describe him. But
and he doesn't care, and he doesn't care how dumb he is either. He's so confident in how dumb he is, and that's why him and Peacemaker are so good together.
Yeah, they're best friends. They're both idiots.
Now I'm gonna butcher this brother's name. Chukwudi Iwuji.
Yeah.
As Mern.
Yes.
Now, this was a very interesting character. He's the team leader, but we find out that he's secretly a butterfly.
Yeah.
Which was really interesting, and it was a very interesting way to go.
At this point, when we found out, we were kind of still just learning about the gravity of what butterflies were. So I feel like looking back, there were signs that he was a little bit off, but there were signs that there was something more there, but we wouldn't have put it together because they didn't reveal enough at that point. It was only shortly after that whole incident and they had the helmet, and then it all came together. But we weren't given enough information to possibly put that together that I think there was something more to him.
And that's the expert writing of James Gunn. Jennifer Holland is Amelia Harcourt. Now, Harcourt is a cool character, and I really love how the relationship between her and Peacemaker develops. I love to see a strong woman on screen. I love to see that ass-kicking badass, and she brings it.
As soon as she hit the screen, Love her. She's fantastic in this role. And I had a bit of a crush. I can't lie. Love her, but she delivered. And that character you were drawn to, you believed her in this role. There's nothing hokey about it.
So we have Steve Agee as John Economos. It was awesome seeing him coming back from the Suicide Squad. Economos he's such a fun character. I'm really glad that these characters that were in the movie, we really got to flesh out their characters more.
And Economos, like, again, well, I would say similar to Leota at the beginning. I didn't quite know how he fit. It felt a little off, and I remember him from Suicide Squad was fine. But you learn to love him even more. He was a character that grew and evolved, and he was so necessary in everything that happened, and you learn to just love him.
And I like how his leg broke.
Oh my god, I was laughing so hard, and he's like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" It was the most perfect way for him to enter that scene, right?
Absolutely.
Which, of course, he's walking around on it 5 minutes later.
Yeah, no, right? It's like, dude, I don't care how much you splint up that leg. You ain't walking on it. That's a compound fracture, dude. That's a big deal.
Yeah. The bone is outside the body.
Yeah, that's a problem. And then finishing off, the lead characters, Robert Patrick as Auggie Smith, Peacemaker's dad, aka the White Dragon. I've been, especially within the last few years, I've had a real issue with seeing racist characters because I'm seeing way too much of that in real life. Yeah. But the thing is, though, with Robert Patrick is that he brings it to life and you really believe it, but it's not so bad.
They could have made him way worse. They gave you the story. They gave you, I mean, even that, they took a few episodes to understand that you knew he was kind of a dark guy because of what you're saying. He was. But it really wasn't until he went to jail that you're like, hold on, what? And then the rest of it unveils. But you're right, they could have gone way worse. They could have really gone off the chain and made everyone super uncomfortable and just tackled things that didn't even need to be touched. But they did it very well in the sense they gave you just enough that you knew, you filled in all the blanks, you hated him, and that's all you needed.
Then, of course, Annie Chang as Sophie Song, who ends up becoming the leader of the Butterflies. She was amazing. Lachlan Monroe as Larry Fitzgibbon. Now, Lachlan Monroe, he's done a lot of acting where
he's a goofball.
He's like the goofy character. Like one of his most famous roles was
it Dead Man on Campus?
Dead Man on Campus, yeah. Which was a dark comedy. In the original Scary Movie, Dracula 2000.
Yeah.
He's been in some stuff. He's one of those guys that's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And he's likable. I mean, I always thought he would have been in some bigger, because I actually like him. So when I saw him, like, cool. But he always sort of has this background actor role, the secondary role, and it's fine. He does a great job.
Yeah. He does great with what he has. Then you got Elizabeth Ludlow as Leota Adebayo's wife, Kia. Yeah. Judo Master.
Who is this guy? Master. What the fuck? The second you see him, you're like, this is going to be interesting. And he didn't fail.
Judo Master did not disappoint.
Especially that first fight. Everybody looks shocked as it was happening. Like, what is going on? How is this little man just owning us right now?
All right, so
before we get off the character things, there's one more character who I think was a very crucial yet small role in this whole show. His name was Mel Tuck, and he played Augie's neighbor.
Oh, man. I wanted more of him. That dude was hilarious.
Dude, he crushed my whole universe in one sentence or one little interaction they had. Because I said, I'm a Batman guy, right? Mm-hmm. And I loved the interaction. He kept egging him on. But that whole comment about, you're not a real hero, Batman's like, Batman's a pussy. And then just goes on about how, look at all the people he left alive. If he was killing them, think about all the people that'd still be alive from all the extra damage that came down the road. And I'm like, boom, mind blown. I'm like, you're not wrong.
He is so not wrong.
It's dark, but it's not wrong. So that whole interaction, I mean, I liked all their interactions. I thought he kept getting inside Peacemaker's head. And I love that. But that interaction alone just flipped my whole universe. And I always know it, but I never said it out loud. So when that got blown out loud, I'm like, wow.
So with that being said, we're going to put a pin in this one. So Matt, where can we legally stalk you on the intraweb? And we won't insult you by sending Labatt Blue to your house.
So yeah, I mean, I'll give first shout out to our show. So if you're a Letterkenny fan or you just want to hang out with some good old folks and listen to us ramble, check us out anywhere on social. It's really simple. It's at Produce Stand Pod. we have a great time. We're actually next week, whenever this airs, I don't know when this will air, but we are about to celebrate our 100th episode. So it's been a real good run. Yeah, so
awesome.
that's going to be a banger. And Bryan, I hope you're able to attend. And if you're not, you'll have to catch up on the fun later. And then me personally, I mean, you can find me at my main place for hanging out and slinging nonsense is Twitter. So it's at the Dude North is my handle. So please check me out.
You're going to see Matt again in 1 month when we start with Moon Knight.
Yeah,
so
buddy.
That being said, I'm Bryan Tan. This has been Tan Talk.